It's Katie Rose, straight up with a twist. What's up, humans? This is Katie Rose, straight up with a twist. So I am going to be going to New York next weekend. It'll be nice and chilly, but I'm wondering if we'll get to see a couple snow flurries, but we'll have to see because I heard it was snowing in Michigan. And it's been a little cold this week in Florida, which has been great, but it's already warming up again. But hopefully we'll get a couple of weeks of that. I'm excited to go up north. We're going to go see Funny Girl and try to get some rush tickets to see Beetlejuice or The Music Man. I even want to go see like a morning show, like The View or something, like, and see if I can get free tickets to that. But it's my mom's birthday, so we're going to go celebrate her. She loved Barbara Streisand and Funny Lady and Funny Girl growing up, so it's going to be great. So can't wait. And hopefully we'll get to have some good food and maybe meet up with some friends as well. We definitely won't be ice skating because the last time we tried that, my husband, he's Polynesian and he has super wide feet. I guess if you have wide feet, you just can't ice skate. Like, that's just life. Like, he literally can't, and they don't make them wide. And you can try to he got the hockey sized ones, I guess, and those are a little bit wider, but still, he was in so much pain. And I'm like, would it be worth it for us to like get some custom skates that are wide? But we don't go ice skating. I mean, we're from Florida, I guess we could go to RDV in the sports complex and go ice skate there, but I just don't think it'd be worth it. But I always feel bad because he can't enjoy himself. And I'm like trying to have this like serendipity, romantic ice skating moment with him, and he's in severe pain. So I feel bad for our wide-footed folks out there. I also got into the topic online the other day about being short and how people view you, especially if you're a performer, sometimes you'll be on stage, or actors get this all the time. Oh, you're a lot shorter than I thought you were. Same thing, like when you're up high on a stage, you can't really gauge somebody's height. I get that all the time too. And I still to this day don't understand because it usually in the world of dance, a lot it's getting better, but back in the day, it's always like we need boys. It's so hard to get guys to sign up for dance and to learn dance and then in that case be technically good and all of those things. And ask guys, they love picking up short girls. But it's been like the hardest part of my career growing up. I've missed so many opportunities simply because of my height. So, I had to find my own stages that would allow me to be short, or I would literally play a little kid, and it's just unfortunate to me because there's so many talented dancers out there. And it's mostly in the dance world. Acting and singing, height is not as big of a deal, but as a dancer, it's such a big thing. And I guess it's just because they want the long legs. Well, I have long legs for my short body. So if you're just looking at like proportion wise, I'm like, my leg gets up there, and if you can't really tell, if an audience member can't really tell, if you've got shorter male dancers and that's your partner, then it's going to be relative. It's going to be balanced, and I always said, like, if I ever opened up a company, I'm just going to hire girls that are 5'3" and under, and just start changing it, like let's make costumes for short women and men as well and step out of that box, that we need to have these Vegas showgirl long legs. Like, we're not in Vegas all the time, fine, keep that for Vegas. But, across the board, I feel like I wish that we wouldn't just completely dismiss a person and their technique and their quality and their, it's their livelihood too, just because they're short, because there are I've seen it happen too at auditions. Like, someone will literally only get picked, over the more talented dancer just because of their height. I've never quite understood it. And, I guess it's like once somebody set the standard, it's like they don't want to make new costumes. They just want to fit you into the existing costume. And if the existing costume was 5'6", then they want everybody between 5'6" and 5'9", and the same thing with Rockettes. You have to be a very specific size, which for that one, I understand because of the lines and everything like that. I think they have a lower end and then, like a higher end in it. And that one is very different and very specific. and I appreciate what those girls do. I actually got to see the Radio City Christmas Spectacular last year, and I was blown away. I kind of was half expecting just to see mostly kick lines because that's what they always just show us in the Macy's Day Parade. You only see a little bit, but man, they are multi-talented. They can tap. They do all these different things, and the whole time I was in awe. So if you haven't seen that show, it's definitely worth buying a ticket. On a personal note, I will be starting my IVF journey in November, and I already called my doctors, and we're going to get all the medications and start everything all over again. And of course, I have a little bit of PTSD, and I'm just a little nervous about it, because I know we don't have that many more chances left to try and get some good embryos, to try to get some eggs. God, I wish I was a chicken. They get tons of eggs. Those are healthy little hens. I'm not that fortunate. I don't have as many eggs as those chickadees out there. I was trying to think about it the other day. It's kind of not ruined, but it's definitely changed my mindset on my sex life. I feel like if you are a person that can get pregnant, even if you're trying to get pregnant, like eventually you get pregnant and you're like, cool. And you look at like, in the beginning, I used to get a lot of people that'd be like, ooh, you're at the fun part. You're just having all the sex without protection. And cause that you want to have a baby, and that's the fun part. And that's what I used to be told. And then when you go through what I've been through with IVF, it's not fun anymore because there's this devastation and this negativity kind of attached to it. It's like, and that sounds really dramatic because I'm not like crying while I'm having sex. I'm not like upset while I'm having sex. It's never going to be the same because you're always going to wonder, was that the time? Where other people, it's like, oh yeah, I might get pregnant again. Whoop-de-doo, and they're excited about it, or it is fun for them because they're trying to make a baby and they know it's going to happen, because it's already happened for them before, or maybe they're on their third or their fourth or their fifth or whatever. But when it doesn't happen for you, you kind of have this like bad connotation to it. And it just kind of, and I guess some people, if you didn't want to have kids and you found out, you're probably not going to get pregnant together for whatever the reason is, since it's unexplained, it's like, well, then maybe that would give somebody some sort of peace of mind if they didn't want to have kids. They're like, woo, I could have all the sex I want and not worry about it. Who knows? I guess there could be different perspectives, but it's not in my brain how it used to be. And I'm trying to find those, exciting moments and be excited about it without always thinking, will this lead to a child? Am I going to get pregnant? It's like, it's never not on my mind. So I guess that's the hard part about that. Speaking of our bodies and what we think about, I can't do Botox or Dysport or any of those things, while I'm trying to get pregnant. I've had some people be like, oh, do you do it? And I'm like, well, I can't because I'm trying to have kids, and you're not really supposed to do that stuff when you're trying to get pregnant. There's so many things you're not supposed to do, right? No sushi and certain cheeses and all these things, and you have to be aware, and alcohol, of course. And so that's on the list of things. It's not that if I wasn't trying, I don't know. So I guess the conversation I want to talk about today is Botox. And your cocktail of the day is the Cosmonaut. 2 ounces of dry gin, 3/4 ounces of lemon juice, freshly squeezed, and 1 to 2 spoons of raspberry jam. Shake in a shaker and pour in a coupe glass. Use a raspberry for a garnish. Enjoy. Now, there are plenty of other ways to enhance your beauty. Another, big thing that has come in the past 10 years is the microblading of the eyebrows, and even just like the shape of them. Everyone has this very specific shape that now everyone is like, this is the look, which I find it interesting because I think I see it for what it is, which I feel it's just a trend. I feel like, you could have Brooke Shields eyebrows, like the big thick ones, or like now we've got that like boxy in the center and kind of like, sharp at the top and then thin at the outside. I actually remember when I was a kid, my best friend's mom was like mad at me or something. She thought I was lying. I was only like 10 years old, and she's like, you pluck your eyebrows? And I'm like, no, I'm 10. And she's like, yeah, you do. And then I think she asked me again when I was 13. She's like, you pluck your eyebrows. I'm like, no, I don't. Like, I actually have like a natural arch. And back in the day, remember when people would over tweeze? So that was the trend. And like the early 90s, was over tweezing your eyebrows. And then people would start losing the hair on their eyebrows. And now we're trying to fill it in, right? It's just interesting. And I just remember being like, no, I actually have like a natural arch, like, so I don't have the bushy eyebrows. I also had a friend of mine come up to me once and she's like, wow, you have like no eyebrows. I'm like, thank you. Yeah, I know. They're really light. It's the same thing with like my eyelashes are really light. So like unless I wear mascara, it's like you can hardly see them. And I have really long eyelashes actually, but like I have to darken them for you to see them. Same thing with my eyebrows. I have hair there. It's like it's just really light. And I'm not even blonde. I'm just like a regular brunette. So I don't know why my body hair is lighter than like my head hair, but I struggle with this because there's this word that I learned a few years back called glam shaming. And I thought, am I a glam shamer? Is that who I am? Or am I more like an Alicia Keys? Am I just, like I appreciate natural beauty, and because I don't have I find it pretty. Also find it artistic, which there are people that do this for a living. They do makeup for a living and they do fun makeup. I have several friends that do this and I'm always like, wow, because it really is like painting. It's like a painting, it's art. And you're like, wow, that looks really cool. So those people, I feel like there's a line, right? Either you do regular makeup or you do this like really exciting makeup. Or then the step further is like, costume makeup and, different designs on your face and things like that, which I also have friends that do that. But I have always, and I think I get this from my mother, because she's always like, I'm au natural. I've never dyed my hair. She always says, au naturel. I've never dyed my hair in my whole life. And she actually only has, to this day, a few gray hairs. So I'm hopeful for myself as well. And genetics always plays the biggest part in how you look. I actually think I was in a discussion with somebody about this before, and they're like, no, it's not. It's your health. And I'm like, okay, well, yes, that is the close second. But, minus your health, your genetics is going to be the biggest indicator. You want to know what someone's going to look like? Look at their parents. Is what they always say to do. Look at their parents, and then you're going to get a better idea of what the later part of their life is going to look like. And so I was trying to explain to this person that like your hair has a genetic stopping point. So like how your hair grows is genetic. Like it's not like, oh, if I eat healthy and do all these things, you can maintain. And I think that's the difference. There's only so far you can go. You can do biotin supplements, tea tree oil, or the medical grade minoxidil, which is basically Rogaine. And that is that's the standard. That's the gold standard. That's really the only thing that is approved by the FDA and that doctors actually will allow you to do either 2 to 5% on your hair. And I feel like instead of getting hair extensions, which I did it a long time ago, I actually got that keratin fused. It ruined my hair. It made some of my hair stop growing. So obviously I never want to do that again, but I definitely have damage from that. I've also been all colors of the rainbow, so I've been bleach blonde before, and obviously that's damaging as well. But your hair, if I never touched my hair still wouldn't grow to the ground because those are my genetics. My hair is not going to grow to the ground, but some people's genetics are that way. Some people, my grandmother didn't have hair on her legs. My great grandmother, Italian woman. Are you kidding me? What on earth? That is some angelic blessing right there. Are you kidding me? Gosh, what I would give to not have to shave my legs. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I think her arms were pretty hairless too. And it's just what you're born with. And so you can do the best to maintain what you have, which I think is what is important. But to think that you can change who you are to fit some sort of mold, I think this is where the body dysmorphia tends to come in. And of course we can blame the magazines and, everything out there, that's, pushed in our faces, especially over the years. But I just struggle because I'm afraid I won't recognize my friends. I'm afraid I will walk down the street. They will say hi to me and I will be like, I don't know who you are, because of the addiction that Botox and Dysport or anything, that you start doing can be, I mean, working out can be an addiction. I've been doing yoga and I'm kind of addicted to it. Like I trained my body. Same thing with like McDonald's. You can train yourself in a bad way. Your body will get addicted to the sugar and the bad food, and then you'll want more of it, which is why you're supposed to shake things up and switch things out and make sure you're not doing something like too obsessively. Even working out, you do the same thing every day, your body is going to reject it. So you got to mix it up, right? Same thing with your diet. I've always been on the mindset, and I know that, it's proven or whatever. But I also think it might be a psychological excuse. People are like, well, I have headaches, so that's why I do Botox. But the real reason they wanted Botox was because they wanted to get rid of the lines in their head or their 11s or whatever. But now, because they'd get migraines every once in a while, they're like, well, I'm just going to get the Botox. And then it's like killing two birds with one stone. And I have an excuse for it. And it's not just, if they're making it like it's for their health, But if it's really for your health, then if you read the side effects of Botox, you might question the longevity, which so far so good, right? There hasn't been any like, terrible, terrible things. People do find that you could get numbness in swallowing, and you could get droopy eyelids as a long-term effect. There has been reports of vision loss and weird things like that. But if you read the side effects on anything, aspirin, Excedrin, you're going to also find things that could possibly happen. I guess to each their own, do whatever you want, take the risks that you want to take. But it's also like, well, why don't you just have an aspirin if you have a headache or take an Excedrin? It's also a lot less expensive, that's for sure. So I think what's scary is the upkeep of it, right? It's the same thing when you dye your hair a different color. You're like, oh my gosh, I have committed to this now because then my roots are going to come in and I'm going to keep doing this. Right now, I'm growing out my hair color. It's almost all gone. It kind of looks like an ombre now, and I didn't even do that on purpose, but I haven't even seen my natural hair color in years. And I'm like, oh, someone's like, do you have grays? I'm like, I don't know. It's like, I'm not sure yet. So I've been growing it out and it's been so much healthier. And a lot of people, I was kind of going to touch on this earlier with the minoxidil and the Rogaine. I would rather invest, because I think hair is very important. So I would rather invest in something like that, which is actually pretty affordable, than Botox or, expensive makeup and things like that. Because wearing a wig is a little more obvious, or a toupee or whatever, which is totally fine if you would rather do that. But I'm when people are making the choices and spending their money, it's like how people will spend money on Starbucks every day. And I'm like, why are you doing this? I guess if you're super rich and you're like, this is the one vice and this is my luxury, go for it. If you've got the money. But like when you equate the amount of money, oh my goodness, like just buy coffee from, Amazon, and you could get organic too, and it'll be better than Starbucks coffee. It'll be great. If you really need a frother, buy a frother, get some good grade milk, it's still going to be cheaper than going to Starbucks every day. Like, I think I equated it to be over 15,000 a year. I'm like, if you went every day. And most people don't go every day, but some people do. And I'm like, that's a lot of money. That could be money for surgery, or if you do want your Botox, whatever. Anyways, I digress. Things like that. I would rather invest in my hair, and making sure it stays healthy and maintaining, rather than looking for things that can fix the problem later, which is what I fear a lot of people do, is when it's too little too late, they're like, oh, I'll just do this and I'll fix it. So I've always been a maintenance person, I'm like, I'm going to do yoga. I'm going to maintain doing these things for my body, because when I started feeling it in my 30s, and now I'm almost 40, and I'm like, oh gosh, I need to keep up with this. And it's not something I can just say I need to do or deal with it later, because your body will break down. You're getting older. There's this quote, something I found online, but I thought it was funny. So I asked my doctor at age 25, how many years younger am I going to look after getting Botox? And he said, 0. You'll just look like all the other girls your age who all got Botox. And I'm like, right? Like, if anything, it'll make you look older, like the 50-somethings who just started it, right? Because we associate needing Botox with age. So if you're starting to get Botox, then I'm going to think that you might actually be an older person. And isn't that kind of sad? Because like, I do not understand how any human being in the world in their 20s is getting Botox. If you are in your 20s, whoa, slow down. Like, no, no, you don't need it. You do not need it. And I don't care how much stress you've had in your life or if you're drinking or whatever, and you're like, but I look bad. Once again, fixing the problem after it's too late. It's like really internally is what you need to do. I do not, there's no excuse for me. Like if someone's like, yeah, I do Botox, I'm in my 20s. I'm like, no, just no. Like, and it makes me sad because I'm worried that our society is going to start viewing normal lines on your face as an issue, and we're going to conform and get used to the new Botox look. And then that's going to be what's expected. And so now we've got these real live magazines walking around. Before you go in for a photo shoot, before anybody was doing Botox, and they airbrushed you, and it was an after thing. You saw the person in person and they still had their wrinkles. Now it's like we're parading around the magazines in real life, and or even so with the filters online, people say, oh, it's the magazines and they're airbrushing their people. And it's a little hypocritical, right? Because then, well, I guess we could say it's their fault that now we feel like we need to do this. But with all of the, online filters, now people are doing it themselves. They don't need to go and be a famous person on the cover of a magazine to get airbrushed anymore, and to put a filter on to make themselves look a certain way. And I guess I can attribute a lot of the way I feel to my mom because she has always been about being natural, and all the guys I dated loved me looking natural. And so maybe I was just around that more, even though I'm in the industry that I'm in. I still feel like I like myself. And I think that's what makes me nervous is that these women, people that I know, they don't see the beauty that I see. Like I literally sometimes will scroll through old photos of some of my friends and I'm like, I think that person's prettier. I like this person's facial expressions too. Really, it's your character. It shows the world who you are. Like your character, you're by morphing your face, you're also morphing the way that your character comes out of your body, your expressions. I mean, I remember I think Burt Reynolds, when men get Botox, I think it looks even weirder. But and I'm like, imagine if Robin Williams got Botox. Oh my gosh, forget about it. No way, Jose. And I guess I just wish that they could see that they're beautiful. I see it. I think that they're beautiful. And I'm not saying they're not beautiful with the enhancements as well. I just prefer the natural. So then where do we draw the line? Because I don't want to glam shame anybody and I don't want anyone to, feel like they're ugly with Botox, right? It's like to them, they're like, I'm removing the wrinkles. I should look better, right? And I think it's hard for me. I guess it's just opinions. I guess it's just how you feel about it. I prefer it without. I even prefer older women without it. I like old ladies. I have a problem with getting old. I can admit to that. I'm like, oh my God, I see my wrinkles. But I also know that I'm going to embrace it. And here's the thing, I could be a complete hypocrite. And when I turn 40, or if I don't have kids, or after I have kids, I might be like, okay, it's time. I need a little bit here and there. I'm not saying I'm never going to do it. But I would definitely do it in moderation. And then I wonder, maybe there's people out there who are like, yeah, I started that way. And then now it's just part of my life. Once again, kind of getting addicted to something and becoming a part of your life. And also not being used to your face anymore. Think about that. It's like once it starts wearing off, you're like, what face is that? And it's gonna look different to you. It's gonna look more drastic. You're teaching yourself that you're used to the way you look and you're putting a negative connotation towards your regular face. I do find it interesting, though, that we use the Botox to lift and remove wrinkles, but then one of the side effects is droopy eyelids. And I'm like, well, I don't want that. I already have droopy eyelids, hooded eyes or whatever. And if you look at the old school way of doing things, there's actually special massages you can do for your face. You could probably get people to do it for you nowadays. I would rather do that. as an alternative to Botox. Some people even do acupuncture, which is a pseudoscience, but if you believe in it and it works for you, go for it. But it's all about stimulating the blood flow in your face and your muscles. Think about it. That's what is going to keep it moving, right? Keep it lifting. If I'm going to lift my eyebrows right now because I can feel those muscles, same thing with working out. If I'm going to, when you squish your boobs and from Greece and you're squishing your boobs, you're working those pec muscles above your breasts and it's lifting your breast up. It's no coincidence that people who work out and do pull-ups and push-ups, their breasts are a little bit perkier because they're working those muscles around the boob, right? And I can only speak for myself. Mine are pretty perky, just saying. Benefits, thanks genetics, thanks mom, whatever, and gymnastics, whatever. But I'm just saying, like, I was taught, and I actually read from him. I used to read the Cosmo magazine, Cosmopolitan, the teen one, and then I migrated to the adult full version. But I read about working out your face. And so like, I've always thought about that. And as an actor, I'm like, I want to work out my face. So like stretching out, making the ah sound around your mouth, pushing, the front of your lip forward, stretching your eyes, raising your eyebrows up and down, holding your eyes open for a certain amount of time, smiling, I can't, if you could see my face right now. But doing those things, those are going to work out, and think it would lift your muscles, right? It would lift your face because you're working the muscles. If you freeze it, you're training your muscles to have atrophy, to not work anymore. So they're gonna be lazy. Since when in our working out lives are we like, oh yeah, well, you're gonna get, injuries, and you want to build your muscles, right? And I always just feel like it's just a healthier, way to do it. And then I have to ask, like, the bigger picture, and it might be for both. It's like, are you, doing that because it makes you feel more comfortable in your own skin, or do you feel like it makes other people more comfortable? You know what I mean? Like, do you care? Is it more about you caring about what other people are viewing you as? And then this is a whole nother story, right? This is like that body dysmorphia that is so real and so out there. And, if you're constantly stressed about the way that you look, then, maybe therapy is also a good option for that. When you do things because you think it makes other people like you more or whatever, then I think that is the negative route to go. And it's not you. And I think, I guess the question would be, what makes you think that? What makes you think that other people like you better with the Botox, that other people think you look better? Have you asked them? Because if you were to ask me, I would immediately be like, no, I like your other face. I like your normal face with all of your expressions and your character and your personality coming out. And also I don't view lines as an issue. They're just expression lines. And I think there's the difference there, right? So as we get older, our skin gets looser, right? And we lose that elasticity. They've got, the hyaluronic acid and vitamin C and all these things that help with that help thicken your skin and bring back that elasticity. Biotin, all those things. But the Botox isn't going to bring that into your skin. It's just going to remove the wrinkle temporarily. But there's a difference. There are some age wrinkles, and then there are expression lines. And I think we're removing our expression lines. So I understand, I guess, if you want to remove the age wrinkles, fine. I get that. I even think crow's feet are fine, because crow's feet, they make you look happy, right? It's showing you've got happiness in your face. I don't know. I'm just different with this, I guess, than maybe some other women. I also grew up with two brothers, and most of the women I grew up with and around weren't really all about that. But I can appreciate, makeup. I wear it, obviously, and it took me a long time to learn how to wear it because, unfortunately for me, I'm a little bit allergic. I have very sensitive skin, very sensitive eyes. When I get sick, my eyes do not stop tearing. And as a child, for all my recitals growing up, until I learned how to apply it myself, I couldn't wear eyeliner. I couldn't wear mascara. I couldn't wear eyeshadow. My eyes started crying as soon as the brush touched my eyes. And it tickles, and then tears just come out. It just triggers this sinus thing in my nose and my eyes, and everything just starts watering. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And so actually I did glamour shots when I was a kid, and all of my glamour shots, I have no eye makeup on. I'm like, well, my aunt was like, really? I'm like, I'm sorry, because she bought the pictures for me. I still felt pretty, even though I didn't have it. I think if any of those things, like makeup was meant not to cover up unless it's concealer, but to enhance. That was what I was always told growing up. It's supposed to enhance what you already have. So that's why I've always looked at it as a minimal application. Plus, if you apply too much, you start breaking out and getting zits. So, it's a catch 22. It's like, well, you're wearing it to cover up the zits, but if you keep wearing it, you're going to get the zits, right? So that's, a lot of people, I have pretty good skin and people always say, what do you do? I'm like, I don't wear base. Like I put some under my eyes and that's it. Like I don't wear it on my forehead. I put a little bit on my nose now because I dropped a couch on my face. Fun fact. Fun story. My husband and I were moving in. I've had this house for 11 years and he was moving into my home. And after we got married, and we were carrying the couch into the garage. And when we got to the garage, it's like we're both on each end and we were going to set it down slowly. Well, he goes, okay, drop it. And the way he said it, I thought something was wrong. So instead of bending my knees and bringing it down slowly, he was like, drop it. And so I thought something was happening. So I backed away, let go of it. And he was still bringing it down slowly. So it went at an angle into my nose. I thought I broke my nose, but instead I broke blood vessels. So now I have these permanent red blood vessels on my nose. And people always think I have a zit. And I'm like, I don't. And it has to be right in the middle of my friggin' nose. So I'm always using concealer to cover it up anyways on my nose now. But I'm glad I didn't break it. But that was just funny, but not funny. And I actually looked into what it would cost to get laser treatment. And then after everything, finding out it's over $500 per session, they're like, it's still not guaranteed. I'm like, so I would go through all of that and then it might still be on my nose. I'm like, oh my God. It's like kind of like when you get the vein removal and stuff like that. I was like, you got to be kidding me. I feel like with wearing makeup, like I said, it should enhance. And then you've got artists that do really cool, funky stuff with their eyeshadow. And I'm like, that stuff is always great. Like I don't have good eyelids because I have a crease in my eyelids. I am so envious of eyelids. Can you believe that? A lot of people probably don't think about that, but I have a friend at Nemo that has amazing eyelids, and then my best friend that lives in Texas has amazing eyelids. And I'm like, I'm so jealous of your eyelids. They're like, what a weird thing to be jealous of. I'm like, for real, I love them. I'm like, you have such a great canvas for eyeshadow. Like, you have no idea how fortunate you are, But like little things like that. And that's another thing too. My mom always taught me there's no sense in being envious and jealous. If someone has a great feature, tell them. Be like, you've got great eyelids. I love your cheekbones, whatever. Like, I think it's great. And they probably would like the compliment, So I've always just appreciated other people's beauty and especially their natural beauty. Now today, I'm not sure if their eyelids are Botoxed or if that's really their face. I don't even know. With makeup too, I guess it's a tricky thing because I've heard people say, oh, I really like your makeup. And it's like, do you want someone to say, I really like your makeup? Or do you want someone to say, I really like your face? Or I think you look really pretty tonight. It's like, I feel you can appreciate like what somebody did, as like the art of it and the choices. And because there's so many different ways you can apply makeup, right? So I guess it's fun. I guess I could see it. I find tasks like that, to be stressful for me. I find going to the bathroom annoying, but that's me. I have that's my anxieties of my daily life is I am obsessed with not wasting time. And sitting on the toilet to use the restroom is a waste of time to me. Where like a man is like, let me take this time to take out my phone. I'm going to play a video game. I'm going to read a book, and they're doing stuff on their phone or, in the old days, you'd read a newspaper or a magazine and guys like, that's like their time. My time I like in my car. That's like when I'll listen to a podcast and that's my safe space is in my car with my me time. But yeah, it's stuff that wastes time. So like putting on makeup, I'm like, getting dressed up for a party, I'm like, like it takes so much time. Like I really don't actually like it. And what's funny? I always look my best when I get dressed last minute. And you know what it is? I think when you dress comfortably or you your face so much, you pick like your go-to makeup that you always do, what it's going to be. and it's your go-to makeup and you know it's going to look good, so you just do it. And then I know that I look cute in hats. I have like 50 hats. I have a hat obsession. And I know the clothes that I'm comfortable in, and so I'll throw them on, and then all of a sudden I'm like, "Dang, I look real cute." And I'm like, "I didn't even try." But that's another thing, right? If you're comfortable in your clothes, you're going to wear them confidently. If you're comfortable with the makeup on your face, you're going to express yourself confidently. So sometimes when you like try too hard, and I'm like trying to do some new thing on Pinterest that I saw, I have completely wasted time before with my hair just trying, and then all of a sudden I went and threw it up and it looked amazing. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I have fully gotten ready and then had to jump in the shower and redo my hair all over again because like I put too much product in it, didn't know what I was doing, was trying to copy this video, and then I'm like, F it. I'm just going to do what I know how to do, you know? And that's okay. That is okay. Some people are very skilled in that. I've got friends that could probably do hair and makeup for weddings, and I'm super jealous of that talent. And then there's this other odd phenomenon that happens is when there are women that do get super glammed up and have the Botox and all the stuff, then they do this other thing because they're trying to allow their personality to come out, and then they'll make ugly faces on purpose to try to seem relative, to try to seem laid back, right? So you're like, well, which one's it going to be? Are you the laid back, fun personality, or are you the glam girl who's like, look at my face? I'm not saying you can't be both, but it looks awkward, I guess, when you're like presenting yourself a certain way and then you're like, but I also want to show that I'm goofy and fun, so I'll make my face look really ugly in the moment because I froze it, so it won't look that ugly. It'll just look cute ugly. Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but it's like before Botox, we just made a duck face, right? We're like, make a duck face, and that's your fake Botox, right? You know, and there's angles and different ways you could stand. Like when people like turn their hips inward to have the gap between their legs because Sarah Jessica Parker had the gap. She just has the gap, people. She's got wider hips. Her legs are further apart. I have no gap. There ain't no trying with that. The way that I'm built, there's just no way. But my booty sticks out. That is definitely, it's weird. I'm curvy from the side, but not from the front in the way that I would like to be. Like I would like to have like a small rib cage and like wider hips, like a woman, like a normal, I feel like the hourglass, you know, shape. But my rib cage is so wide. I've actually like Googled that before because, you know, I'm a normal person too. You know, we all live with our bodies every day. So you start to judge them. You know, I've never had a flat stomach. I have swayback syndrome, so I actually do think I'm supposed to be 5'3", but my spine is swayed and it's kind of condensed down a little bit. But that sway actually kind of gave me this kind of curvy, kind of sexy look. So then I'm like, well, all right, well, it gave me something. So I look at my flaws and my discomforts because I do have back issues because of it, and I do not have a flat stomach because since it's swayed, my stomach sticks out. So my stomach sticks out further than a normal girl's would because of it. So it like kind of always looks like I have a little bit of a tummy. And my rib cage is wide probably because of all the years of gymnastics and building up the muscles around my rib cage, and also genetics. Like I definitely got my dad's shape more so than my mom's, and my mom's like, dang it. Like she even feels bad for me. She's like, it's true. She's like, you look like your dad. I'm like, well, oh well, it is what it is, Santa. And it's definitely affected jobs for me. I was not able to do Voyage of the Little Mermaid because of my rib cage. Like, and that was the conversation. And you know what? I actually, in this industry, appreciated that I got an honest conversation from that casting director. And I very much respect her. And it's because you don't want to, you know, spend all this time wondering why, you know, because in fact, I was told I looked amazing in the costume because I actually played the Little Mermaid just as a character. But I also was disapproved 3 weeks after doing it for 3 weeks because of that. And my boobs were really big. So it was just a lot. It was like wide rib cage, big boobs, just can't do it. And same thing, you know, with Voyage. And it made me feel good that it wasn't because of my talent. They're like, obviously, vocally, you passed the test. So I got through that, and that's completely my range. And I looked great in it, in the wig and everything. It was just the way that my body was built. And I'm like, you know what? Can't argue with that. I'm like, I understand this is the industry. However, along the same you know, conversation with that, you know, there will be women that are told if they're trying to be in the plus size industry, you're not plus size enough. Okay. I'm not plus size enough. I mean, think about that Victoria's Secret model that was like considered plus size. And I'm like, that's plus size. I'm like, she's really skinny. You got to be kidding me. Right. And we're, this industry is really hardcore. And it is true. Because I've seen myself on TV and I'm like, oh, wow, I do look heavier. Like camera really does add 10 to 20 pounds. It's crazy. And on a smaller framed body like myself, if you are a smaller frame, when you gain a pound, 2 pounds, 3 pounds, you see it. It has nowhere to go, especially when you have I have like no stomach, like no torso. It has nowhere to go but out, and you're going to see it. Taller people, it kind of just like finagles its way, in other areas. Sometimes this is such a weird thing and I wonder if it's true, but sometimes like I'll get like a rumble. Does this happen to you? Like a muscle twitch, but it feels like a rumble in your tummy, but like in your butt or like your leg. And I'm like, oh, that's the cottage cheese. I must have gained a little weight right there. Like, I wonder if that's really what it is. It's like all of the fat just like maneuvering and it's like, hey, here it is. Cause like, that's what it feels like. I'm like, just got a little fat right there. Anyways, if you get a rumble in your body, let me know. But especially in this industry, you feel like you have to fit a mold. And it's one thing if you're right for the role, but I don't think you should keep trying for that same kind of role and changing your look to fit that role. Like find your own stage. Like you could waste a lot of time trying to look like someone you're not and miss all of the roles you're actually good for. A comedian friend of mine said that his agent was like, well, you're the big guy. You're the big funny guy. So, you got to stay with that. That's what we're, pitching you as. And so he felt like he had to stay big for the type of roles that he would get. And then finally he's like, F that. He's like, I care about my health. He's like, I'm going to lose weight. And guess what? He still gets roles. He still books stuff. And that's the thing is you have to understand too, is like, if you really are talented and you work at your craft, like your craft will change with you. So, you like, look at Fat Amy. She lost weight. She's still a star. It's okay. Well, we're moving on. We're switching gears. She did those funny, heavier roles. And now she's like, I can do other things. If you keep working at your craft, you can always fit new molds. So this idea is, no, I can't because of my career is a cop out, and then here's the fine line, right? How do we support? This is a very, tough conversation. And let me be clear, whether you are fat or skinny, I don't want to see your tits and your vulva hanging out. Just saying. It's not something that I care to see. It's sounding like a white prude. Like there's like definitely like a line of, class, I guess. And I see it. And some of it's fun and some of it's great, but some people overdo it, I feel, especially in the pop industry as well. And I think it's hard because we want to support different shapes and sizes, but we also want to support someone's health, right? So we can walk up to somebody and be like, yeah, girl, you look great. You're big and beautiful. And then in the same sentence, that same person in 3 months from now could come back and be like, wow, you look amazing. You lost so much weight. So like, which one is it? And I guess the answer is support somebody regardless of their size, which is how I feel, I guess, is let them go through their own journey. Because unless you are their mother, if you try to tell somebody about their weight, that is not an easy conversation. Like you have to be really close to that person, or that person has to start talking about it themselves, and they have to want that change, or they have to want to ask those questions like, am I a big person? Or they want to have to go to their doctor and ask, am I healthy? Am I obese? What is it going to be that changes your mindset on it? Because for me personally, I think health comes first. So I think it's difficult because how do you celebrate somebody and also care for their well-being at the same time? Because what if that person's like, well, no one ever said anything, and now I'm sick in the hospital, or I'm about to have a heart attack, or I'm getting diabetes because I'm overweight. How come no one said anything to me? Is it the friend's fault for not saying anything? Probably not. Like everybody's responsible for their own lives, right? But even in my conversation, the other week with my friend Virginia talking about friendship, she's like, why didn't anyone tell me? about my ex. Why wasn't anybody honest with me? But it's still like a tough thing. I think if you're self-aware of things, and totally, it's fine. People go through phases, right? Sometimes we're super skinny, and then people fluctuate, right? And I think you're allowed to do that. I think everybody definitely gained 20 to 40 pounds during the pandemic. And we're allowed to fluctuate. We're allowed to go on our own journey. But it is tough though, right? Especially in the public eye. It's like, what are we really celebrating? Are we celebrating bad health? Are we supporting this? And because I do think big is beautiful, especially like we were mentioning earlier, genetics are your genetics. Like there's only so much you can do. But I saw this beautiful woman in a show the other day, and I'm going to say she was thick, but she was perfectly proportionate. She had muscle, but she was thick. And I consider myself thick for my height. And I'm like, you know what though? I'm like, I could tell she's healthy and she's beautiful, and like and she's hot, honestly, quite frankly. I was like, dang, she's a good looking woman, And I think that's what we need to support, is being healthy for your genetics, is being, if you are a big and beautiful person, why are you big and a beautiful person? Are you just and then when you start, what I'm trying to say, I guess, is if you start telling people that and supporting it, and then they start thinking it's okay, and they start ignoring their doctors who are telling them, stop eating McDonald's every day, stop eating fast food every day, stop eating the junk, stop eating dessert, stop eating after 8 p.m., you need to exercise more, and they ignore it because everyone around them is telling them it's okay, then once again, too little too late, right? And then you could die. I mean, that's not even a joke, So, I don't want anyone to think that I'm like, oh, being overweight is, that being big is not beautiful. I do think it is. I literally am saying this. Like I said, I saw this woman the other day. I'm like, dang, she's gorgeous. Like that's all I could think of. There was no other thought in my mind. But once again, I could tell she was healthy, and I think that's the hard part. I think it is difficult when you care about somebody's well-being and their health, when you hear someone who can't breathe. They can't breathe going up, one flight of stairs. You're like, "Okay, well," and I get it too, because you don't want to walk around being depressed. You don't want to, and so then people just say, "Oh, I love who I am. I love looking this way. I think I'm a great person." I think you can still be a great person and still make efforts to take care of yourself. And in fact, I think you'll have a better support system. You will have friends around you. If they're already your friends and they're already supporting that, they're going to support your journey to get healthier. That's for sure. So that's all I'll say about that. I know it's a tricky thing to talk about, but I think hopefully my audience will get where I'm coming from. I think there's always a fine line and a balance, as I always say, to everything. And then I was reading this book the other day, and I just thought this was interesting. But it was a book I advertised on a podcast a while ago. But they had this little girl in it playing with dolls, and she was very, very poor. She only had a few crappy old dolls, like Barbie dolls, not many accessories to work with. And someone asked why she chopped off the Barbie's hair. So one of the Barbies had like a weird chopped off haircut. They're like, you ruined the Barbie. And and I do think that was also a metaphor, and people, they tend to cut their hair as an impulsive reaction to their current state of emotions. Sometimes, how many movies have you seen where someone's really upset and then they like take the scissors and they just cut all their hair off, But the little girl said, I cut it so she'd be different than the other ones. And I just thought, wow, that is it just really affected me. I was like, that's a big thing, that at that age, she wanted, something to be different. She didn't want them all to look the same and prim and proper and what the magazines were and what the Barbie company was telling, her it should look like. She's like, I wanted them to look different. And I just thought that was really, really cute. And then also in this Botox world that we're talking about, I feel like people who are younger are always trying to look old, right? More mature, rather, I guess I should say, not old, but more mature looking. And people who are old are, trying to look younger. And I think it's okay to be your age. I think it's okay to be your age and be the best, healthiest person you can be at your age. And I also think that with Botox and, lip plumpers and all these things, people convince themselves that their favorite feature about themselves is a fake feature. Like when I think about Christina Aguilera, and if you look at like old videos of her with like Genie in a bottle and stuff, she was so skinny, too skinny. But I read an article once because she's been my favorite singer since I was a child. And I've added some new singer. I mean, I love Celine Dion anyways, but Christina Aguilera was like, I was obsessed with her growing up. But she said her favorite feature is her lips. Yet we know she puts lip plumpers in her lips. So I'm like, so you mean you love the thing about yourself that maybe you hated about yourself previously? And I find that, that's, I don't know. Is changing yourself going to bring you the true love? Or is it just, like I said, you keep injecting it because you don't like what you really look like? So I think it's really about loving and accepting yourself. I'm also like, I don't want to be a hater to anybody who does that stuff because I'm like, I get it. Like if it makes you feel beautiful, and then she sings a song about, you are beautiful, she's got her beautiful song and she knows it. And I think that's the thing, right? She knows, and she's telling the world, run around, be young, be a kid, and love who you are as you are. But then she does all of those things. And I know it's because she's in the industry, and I know it's because someone's going to write an article about her, and so it's this big catch-22. So I guess at the end of the day, you have to just love a person for who they are. And I think if you are in the shoes of, I do all of those things as well. Like Christina Aguilera is like, yeah, I know. I appreciate people who are natural, but I do this. And here's why I do it, I think as long as you're honest with yourself, and what everything is, and you have a good support system, and you're not afraid to ask your mom or your dad or your family or your friends questions maybe about yourself, then maybe that's the way to go. But I guess also, are they going to be honest with you? I mean, in general, people aren't going to be like, yeah, I think you need Botox. Like, I don't know. It's definitely tough. Even in this industry too, like when you're auditioning for agents and stuff, sometimes people will be like, you shouldn't wear makeup to this interview. I want to see what you really look like. And it's like, well, okay, but it's also called being professional. So you're going to wear a little bit of makeup. Like, yes, I'm not always going to be auditioning for a drug addict or someone who just woke up in a, distressed mother role. So it's like, I also can just look like myself with a little bit of enhancement. What I mean there, just a little bit of makeup. I don't know. I guess we'll have to see over the years and if there are any worse side effects to Botox. I mean, I don't like what I see in the older community with the way that Botox makes older people look. That's for sure. And I do, to a certain degree, think that in the younger community, when you use Botox, it makes you look older because older people are using Botox. Diet culture is terrible too. And everybody's always, the rage of the new diet. But then what's always the answer anyways? Diet and exercise. You got to find what works for you. Like I do yoga every day and I realized I don't have to kill myself. I just have to mix it up a little bit. I don't have to kill myself. Some days I do like straight up only like legs in a lot of different like body balancing positionings, stabilizations. And I don't have to like go to a gym and I don't have to run 5 miles a day. It's just about maintenance and also not overeating. I've definitely gotten better at that. That is the best thing I think I've done for my health yet is when I go out to a restaurant. Think about it. Every time you go to a restaurant, it's not the serving that you'd be serving yourself at your own house. So it's always double. So I immediately cut it in half, and I'll put the other half in a box. And I'll be like, I'll eat that later, or I'll eat it tomorrow for dinner. And then you're saving money too, right? So you get 2 meals from the one expensive dinner that you went going out. Or I'll just eat half of it and then box it right at the end. But yeah, that's helped me not overeat because you literally stretch out your stomach, and that's the what happens is that you keep eating and filling it, and then you stretch it out and you stretch it out and you stretch it out, and then you have to keep filling what you've stretched. So then to reverse it, you have to eat less, so you shrink it and you shrink it and you shrink it, and then you'll get fuller quicker. So I always just keep that in mind, especially with like protein. Protein can really, be the majority of what we eat, and then that overtakes everything and doesn't really give you space for the sides and all of the other things. I am not a nutritionist. I just know how my body feels, and it feels much better since I've been being more careful about my portions and things like that. And of course, not eating super late. I was definitely like a chips and salsa or cheese, like a cheese board at night with a glass of wine. Oh dear. It's always the cheese, dang it. The cheese, that is what will get you after 8 o'clock. I'm like, no, but it's so good. And it's hard too. It's all that stuff. It's like, you really should have your dessert in the morning, right? Like have your cheesecake in the morning so you can burn it off throughout the day. How did we teach ourselves like to have dessert at night? Oh my God, it's so bad for you. And I'm not much of a dessert person, but I guess all of this to say is, I guess I don't know. I guess I know, for me, I guess I know when someone compliments me, they're complimenting me for now. I know that they're like, oh, you look pretty because this is how you really look. I'm not sure how I'd feel if I started doing Botox or lip injections or whatever, liposuction, whatever your thing would be. I'm not sure how I'd feel if somebody complimented me after doing that. I'd be like, yeah, well, I did this and that's why I look like that. Like, I'd almost feel like I'd have to be honest because I don't like lying. Like, I think that's really what it is for me. I don't like to lie. So then I'd feel like I'm advertising that I do all this stuff. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. But at the end of the day, the end of this episode, to each their own. And I'm more about somebody's, character and their personality than anything. I guess what I'm trying to say is, for me, I want to see that personality. That's what brings me joy. And when I have trouble seeing it and seeing the person that I know and love or that I knew, and it's not like they changed, I guess. It just feels outwardly like they did because it's really honestly hard to like pick up on their facial cues and stuff like that. Like genuinely, it hasn't gotten off the deep end yet. That's for sure. But what I'm saying is I'm worried it's going to go in that direction. And by the time I'm 60, I'm not going to know anybody. I'm going to be like, who is that? I don't know that person. And who knows, by then I might be on the bandwagon, or maybe they'll come out with the fountain of youth injection that we've all been waiting for. Or, we'll be like in biblical times and live to be 968, whatever. Maybe we'll figure it out and we'll live longer. And that will be it. Who knows? If you had the choice to live for like another 300 years, would you do it? If you had the choice to live forever, would you do it? I don't think I would do forever. Because then I'm just messing with like God stuff. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't want to put that into the hands of some scientist guy or something. And plus I'd just get bored, I'm sure. I feel like I'm wondering, if you had the opportunity to live longer, is that going to be better? That you want to, watch your loved ones die and then maybe you meet new friends? That would be really hard. But I guess if all of your friends get to live longer too. Those are the fun questions that, we watch all those sci-fi and fantasy shows about. And we're like, would you want this? If you could fly, like, what's your superpower, right? I think mine would be to be able to go anywhere, so I could be like, I want to be in London. Poof, I can transport to London, because I love to travel and see things. I think flying would be pretty cool, but I'm like, meh. I'm like, I'd rather just be able, or what if you could transport and actually be a fly on the wall? So you would just be, your gift would be to be a fly on the wall and be the best eavesdropper in the world. Well, that was fun. Anyways, I always say to people, I hope you know my heart, and, opinions, everybody's got them. And I know that when I have a statement, someone's going to have an exact opposite of that statement. And these are really just thoughts. These are ways to make you think about things, what you want for yourself, what you want from other people, and also looking at the consequences and what your choices, how they affect you and others as well. I feel like as long as you're being healthy and happy and working on, yourself, that's really all that matters. It doesn't really matter what anybody else thinks. And with that said, thank you for joining the podcast. I'm also still looking for lots more subscribers and followers. So if you are listening, subscribe, share, spread the word, because I love what I do. I love talking about random topics, and I enjoy humans as much as I enjoy the life that I'm currently living with all of its hardships. So with that said, thank you so much for stopping in. This has been Katie Rose, served straight up with a twist.